I barely spoke on the drive home. Jeff kept glancing at me, confusion written across his face. You alright? You've been quiet since dinner. I forced a small smile. Just tired. But inside, my mind was screaming. Tell him. Tell him what she said. Tell him she admitted everything. But what would that accomplish? He'd look at me the same way he had in the car last time. Hurt, defensive, accusing me of being cruel to his mother. He hadn't seen what I saw. He hadn't heard the steel in her voice, the cold calculation in her eyes. It would be my word against hers. And I already knew who he'd believe. That night, I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. I thought about the apartments, about my grandmother's voice in my head warning me, don't let anyone else control what I've given you. And I realized Sally wasn't after Jeff's love anymore. She was after everything. His time, his decisions, his loyalty, maybe even our future. The next morning, Jeff left early again to check on her. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, staring at the steam rising from the cup. I felt trapped. I needed someone who would believe me, someone who could see through Sally's performance. So I called Claire. When she arrived later that afternoon, I poured everything out, every detail of the visit, every word Sally had said when Jeff stepped outside. Claire's eyes widened. She actually admitted it? Out loud? Yes. My hands shook as I wrapped them around my mug. Like it was nothing. Like she was telling me the weather. She doesn't even care if I know, because she knows Jeff won't believe me. Claire exhaled sharply, shaking her head. That woman is dangerous. I can't prove it, I whispered. If I tell Jeff, he'll just think I'm exaggerating or worse, lying, and that will drive him closer to her. Claire leaned forward. Then you don't tell him. Not yet. You wait. You watch. People like Sally, they can't hide forever. Eventually, she'll slip in front of him, not just you. Her words gave me a flicker of hope, but also a chill. Because waiting meant letting Sally keep her grip on Jeff in the meantime. That evening, Jeff came home with a troubled look. What's wrong? I asked carefully. He sat heavily at the table. Mom wants to come stay with us. Just for a little while, she says. Until she feels stronger. My chest tightened. She asked you that today? He nodded. She says the house feels too empty. She doesn't like being alone. And she looked so fragile, Maria. I couldn't say no. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay calm. Jeff, are you sure that's a good idea? He frowned. What do you mean? I chose my words carefully. We've worked hard to build a life together here. If your mom moves in, even temporarily, it's going to change everything. His face hardened. So what do you suggest? I just leave her to fend for herself while she's weak. No, I said quickly, my heart pounding. I'm just saying maybe there are other options. A nurse. A helper. Someone who could check on her. He shook his head. She doesn't want strangers in the house. She wants family. I sat in silence, my chest aching, as the weight of his words sank in. Sally wasn't content with controlling him from her house anymore. Now she was moving into mine. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. It was real now. Sally was moving in. My home, the one place that had felt safe, private, ours, was about to be shared with her. No, not shared. Taken. Jeff was already up, moving around with an anxious energy. I'll drive over to help Mom pack a few things, he said, tugging on his jacket. She doesn't want to bring much. Just the essentials. I nodded, forcing a tight smile. Okay. But I knew Sally well enough to understand that essentials meant whatever she wanted. By early afternoon, I heard the crunch of Jeff's car in the driveway. I stood in the kitchen frozen as the door opened. And there she was. Sally stepped inside like she'd been here 1,000 times before, her small frame wrapped in a soft cardigan, her arm looped through Jeff's like a queen being escorted into her palace. Oh, Maria, she said in that honeyed tone she used for everyone but me. Thank you for letting me stay here. I promise you won't even notice I'm around. I managed a polite nod. Of course, Sally. Make yourself comfortable. Her eyes flicked around the living room, sharp and assessing, like she was taking inventory. Then she smiled at Jeff. Darling, why don't you carry my bags upstairs? I blinked. Upstairs? Jeff and I had always agreed that space was ours, our bedroom, our retreat. The guest room was downstairs. Jeff hesitated. Mom, I thought maybe the guest room would be better. Fewer stairs. Her expression faltered for a moment, then quickly softened. Oh, of course. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just thinking, well, no matter. She patted his arm, but her glance at me was razor sharp. I swallowed hard. Round 1, and she'd already drawn blood. Once her things were set in the guest room, Sally insisted on helping in the kitchen. Except her version of helping meant reorganizing every drawer I'd carefully arranged, skinning at the spices I used, and suggesting different brands of oil, flour, sugar. Jeff walked in halfway through and chuckled. Wow, Mom, you're already making yourself at home. I forced a laugh, but inside I was screaming. That night, Jeff and I sat in bed, and I finally dared to voice what was clawing at me. Jeff, we need to set some boundaries. He looked at me confused. Boundaries? What do you mean? She's already rearranging things. The kitchen. The living room. If we don't draw lines, it's going to get out of control. His face softened. Maria, she's just trying to feel useful. You know how she is. She hates being idle. I shook my head. It's not about being useful. It's about respect. This is our home. His smile faltered. She's my mother, Maria. She's going through a hard time. Can't we just cut her some slack? I turned away, staring at the wall. Cutting her slack is one thing. Letting her take over is another. Silence settled between us, heavy and suffocating. Down the hall, I could hear her moving around. Drawers opening. Cabinets shutting. She wasn't settling in. She was staking her claim. And as I lay there in the dark, I realized something terrifying. Sally hadn't just moved into my house. She was moving into my marriage. By the third day, it felt like Sally had always been there. She moved through the house with a kind of quiet authority, opening cabinets, shifting decorations, adjusting curtains. None of it was outright disrespectful, not in ways Jeff would notice, but enough for me to feel it like pins under my skin. At breakfast, she insisted on cooking. Jeff loves his eggs scrambled with cream, she announced, shooing me away from the stove. That's how I've always made them for him. Jeff smiled nostalgically, fork in hand. Yeah, that's true. I sat there, coffee growing cold, watching her serve him like I wasn't even in the room. When Jeff left for work, the real performance began. You know, Maria, Sally said sweetly, wiping down the counter that I had just cleaned, it's a big responsibility to keep a marriage strong. Some women, well, they don't always rise to the challenge. I clenched my jaw. I take care of my marriage just fine. Oh, I'm sure you do. She gave me a pitying smile. But Jeff is used to a certain standard. You understand. I wanted to scream. Instead, I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. By the 5th day, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. She'd filled the guest room with her clothes, her toiletries, even her perfume that now lingered down the hall. She changed the channel on the TV without asking. She left her knitting sprawled across the couch cushions. It was suffocating. That evening, Jeff came home to find Sally knitting in the living room and me curled stiffly on the far end of the couch. Look, honey, Sally said, holding up a half-finished scarf. I thought I'd make something for the baby when the time comes. Jeff laughed. Mom, we're not even there yet. She winked. Oh, I know. But it never hurts to prepare. The baby. The word hung in the air like a knife. We'd barely started talking about children, and here she was, planting her flag in our future. Later that night, I whispered to Jeff, this isn't working. She's taking over, Jeff. She's rearranging everything He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Maria, she's just trying to help. Can't you see that? She's lonely. She's scared. She's recovering. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The word stung. Don't make this harder. As if I were the problem. I rolled over, tears burning my eyes. He didn't see it. He couldn't. The next morning, I found Sally in the kitchen again. Only this time, she wasn't rearranging spices or wiping counters. She was standing at the table with a notepad, scribbling. What's that? I asked cautiously. She looked up with a warm smile. Oh, nothing. Just making a little budget plan for you and Jeff. You two really need to be smarter with money. My heart skipped. Excuse me. Oh, don't take it the wrong way, she said, patting the page. I know you mean well, but managing a household isn't simple. And Jeff has always relied on me for guidance in these matters. I just want to make sure you're not living above your means. The implication hit me square in the chest. She thought I was irresponsible. A liability. Maybe even a danger to Jeff's stability. I stood frozen as she tucked the notepad into her purse with a satisfied little hum. And in that moment, I knew. Sally hadn't come here to recover. She had come here to reclaim. That notepad haunted me. I couldn't stop thinking about it, the neat little columns, the way Sally pressed her pen to the page like she was balancing our lives on her terms. That night, when she went to bed early, I whispered to Jeff, "Did your mom say anything to you today?" About money. He looked at me puzzled. Money? No, why? She's making notes. Budgets. I think she's planning something. He chuckled softly. Maria, it's just Mom. She's always been a list maker. She probably just wants to feel useful. Useful is one thing. But this is invasive. His smile faded. She's trying to help. You're reading too much into it. The words felt like a wall between us. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to find the notepad sitting open on the counter. My heart thudded as I glanced around. Sally wasn't there. Slowly, I pulled it closer. My breath caught. She had written line after line. Groceries, utilities, car payments, even clothing. But what made my blood run cold was the last section. Circled, underlined. Apartments. I froze. She knew. How? I had been so careful. The deeds were locked away, the account separate. I hadn't breathed a word to Jeff. And yet, here it was, scrawled in her careful handwriting like a threat. Just then, her voice floated in from the hall. Oh, Maria, I was looking for that notepad. Thank you. I jumped, slamming it shut. She appeared in the doorway, smiling like a cat who'd cornered a mouse. Curious, are we? I forced a steady breath. Where did you hear about apartments? Her smile didn't falter. Oh, you know. Small towns, loose lips. People talk. Isn't it funny how secrets never stay hidden for long? My hands trembled. That's none of your business. On the contrary, she said smoothly, slipping the notepad into her purse. When it comes to Jeff, everything is my business. The ground tilted beneath me. She wasn't just meddling anymore. She was digging. Watching. Waiting for me to slip. That evening, Jeff came home tired. I debated telling him everything. About the notepad, about Sally's veiled threats. But when I opened my mouth, Sally's voice rang out from the living room. Darling, I made your favorite stew. Sit, sit. You must be starving. Jeff smiled, kissed me on the cheek distractedly, and went straight to the table. I stood there, invisible, the words dying in my throat. As we ate, Sally chattered cheerfully about nothing at all, the weather, her knitting, a TV program. But every time her eyes met mine, I saw it, that glint, that knowledge. Later, when Jeff was in the shower, I passed by her room. The door was slightly ajar. She was sitting at her desk, writing again in that notepad. Her lips moved as she whispered to herself. And I realized something with absolute clarity. Sally wasn't planning a budget. She was planning a takeover. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her neat handwriting. Apartments? The word mocked me, daring me to ignore it. My secret, the one I'd carried like a fragile glass vase, was no longer mine alone. The next morning, I found her already in the kitchen, humming as she brewed coffee like she owned the place. Morning, Maria, she said, chipper, almost smug. I sat down across from her. My stomach nodded. We need to talk. Her eyebrows lifted, feigning innocence. Oh? About what? Don't play games with me, Sally. The apartments. How do you know? Her smile widened, but her eyes stayed sharp. I told you, people talk. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe a friend of your grandmother's. I can't remember. That's a lie. I snapped before I could stop myself. You've been snooping. She didn't even flinch. If I was, it's only because I worry about Jeff. My son deserves honesty, don't you think? I felt my chest tighten. This isn't about Jeff. This is about control. You can't stand the idea that there's something in my life that doesn't run through you first. Her expression softened, but it wasn't kindness. It was pity. Oh, Maria, you're young. You don't understand how marriages work. Secrets are poison. Jeff will find out eventually. Wouldn't it be better if it came from you instead of me? My blood ran cold. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a threat. Before I could respond, Jeff walked into the kitchen, his tie half knotted, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What's going on? Nothing, Sally said quickly, her smile returning like a mask. Just girl talk. Jeff glanced at me. Maria? I swallowed hard. If I told him now, it would sound like I was the one hiding something, which, of course, I was. But worse, it would sound like Sally was the one being reasonable. So I forced a smile. She's right. Just girl talk. Jeff nodded, oblivious, and went back upstairs to grab his bag. As soon as he was out of earshot, Sally leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. Tick-tock, Maria. The longer you wait, the worse it will be for you. My hands curled into fists under the table. That day while Jeff was at work, I couldn't escape her presence. She followed me from room to room with little comments. About how much the grocery bill must be. About how Jeff deserved a wife who understood financial planning. About how fragile secrets can be. By late afternoon, I snapped. You think you've won, don't you? I hissed, cornering her in the hallway. Her smile didn't budge. This isn't about winning. This is about what's best for Jeff. He's my son. I raised him. I know what he needs. And you think I don't? My voice cracked. You think I'm just some temporary fixture in his life? He married me, Sally. Me. Her eyes glinted. Yes. And I wonder if he would have, if he knew you were keeping secrets. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in, her words wrapping around my throat like a noose. Then Jeff's voice echoed from the doorway. What's going on? We both spun. He stood there, briefcase in hand, frowning at the tension in the air. Nothing, Sally said smoothly, stepping past me to kiss his cheek. Just a little misunderstanding. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Sally wasn't bluffing. If I didn't tell Jeff soon, she would. And when she did, she'd make sure it destroyed me.